blah, blah, blah. I was really excited. I was like, I got some water. And around 2 years into being a member of the party, between 2 years I'd been elected to the council and other. And I got into politics because I spent time with the Yanomami Indians. Can you all hear me? By the way. Okay, so I don't need to use the microphone. I got involved in politics in 1992 because I spent some time with the Yanomami Indians and saw the destruction of the rainforest firsthand and the genocide that is still going on. That started when Columbus arrived in the New World. And I joined Survival International, which is an international organisation for Indigenous people. And how they work is they ask their members to write letters to dictators or governments that are destroying Indigenous people's land, or they're poisoning their waters or whatever, and taking away their rights, or killing them. And I got a letter from Survival International asking me to write to the President of Indonesia, Suharto, protesting against Rio Tinto Zinc's destruction of the Amungme tribe's ancestral land. They lived around a huge mountain in the forest in Indonesia, and top of this forest, the centre of their tribal land was a mountain. And they believed that when they died, they went to heaven, but their heaven was at the top of this mountain. And Rio Tinto Zinc was going in and just taking the entire mountain off as a mining project. And I just remembered, actually, something in the back of my mind rang a bell. I was saying, Rio Tinto Zinc, Rio Tinto, Rio Tinto. I looked in and looked it up, and I remember the connection. Lord Richard Home, who was Paddy Ashdown's head of the general election campaign, was a director of Rio Tinto Zinc for external affairs. I didn't know at the time, but this was my first experience of political lobbying. Historically, Rio Tinto Zinc, in most countries that operate, I didn't know this, try and have a director from every single one of the major political parties. And seemingly in Britain, that included the Liberal Democrats. And Lord Home was the Liberal on the board of Rio Tinto Zinc. So I thought, well, I'd be a complete hypocrite if I wrote to President Suharto when in my own political party that issue was there. Now remember, welcome. Now remember, the Liberal Democrats in that general election in 1992 were standing on the platform of anti-nuclear power, pro-human rights, protecting the environment. Richard Home was in charge of that general election campaign, while simultaneously being the external affairs thing, which was condemned by the United Nations for human rights abuses, condemned by NGOs across the planet. Try close. 1, 2, 3. Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So I wrote to Paddy Ashdown. Paddy Ashdown wrote back to me with a letter saying, copying from Richard Holmes, stating that Rio Tinto Zinc had the best environmental record of any company in Europe. So I didn't accept that. So I got a little bit angry, and I put together a case from all the NGOs about all the different things that Rio Tinto Zinc was doing that were complete contradictions to the party. That was sent to every single member of the Federal Executive, and I heard afterwards, because I wasn't a member at the time, I was just a mere party member, local councillor, that they got the pack from me, and they had a discussion about it, and the decision was how to produce a press strategy to deal with it, rather than actually deal with it. So again, I got a little bit annoyed by that. And I decided to actually stand for the federal executive on the platform of the party must make its mind up whether it wishes to have integrity in its general election campaign. In my statement for election, I stated that I felt it was inappropriate for the party to be associated with Rio Tinto Zinc in the light of its record. Political legal advice said that was illegal to state that. This was also the start of my, almost the entire time at the top of the party I was being threatened with legal action. So what they did was they actually blanked out around 50% of my election address was blanked out and sent out to the membership. And being good liberals, they went, oh, we can't have this. And I, completely unknown, was elected on by the last PR, because we have a PR system. I'm not a member any longer. But they had a PR system. So I got elected onto the federal executive. So on an anti-RTZ platform. I contacted all the radicals on the federal executive for the first meeting, because I hadn't stood on the platform RTZ. I actually had to raise the issue. So it was my very first meeting of the federal executive, and this is a group of 30 people representing the Lords, the Commons, the Chief Whip, the President, blah, 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 all these big wigs, and in a big, huge boardroom, and I was going, oh my God, little old me. And arrived with this on the agenda, and nobody would actually second my motion. So I arrived and we had a discussion, and before the President opened the discussion, I was sitting at one end of the table, Paddy Ashdown at the other end of the table, and the President said, I believe you want to make a statement on it, and Lord Holmes sitting beside me. So slightly challenging. Paddy, my first time meeting him in such circumstances, said, before we start the debate, I want the federal executive to know one thing. Now, what I was asking for, I wasn't asking for Richard Holmes to be fired. I just asked Richard Holmes to make a decision which hat he wishes to have on. So I felt the two hats were completely contradictory and self-destructive. And Paddy said, if the federal executive endorses Donnachadh's position, I'm resigning as leader. That was my very first experience with the federal executive, and it was like, wow. Needless to say, the federal executive didn't endorse my position, but at least I had done raised it as an issue, and that was the start of my experience of political lobbying at national level in the Liberal Democrats. The next major area where I experienced it was leading up to and after the subsequent general election. If you remember, Ashdown and Blair were trying to do a deal called the Lib-Lab Pact with the Joint Cabinet Committee. It was absolutely pointless because Blair had a huge majority. Why would the Liberal Democrats merge with Labour after a general election when we should have been, we were in the democratic process, the opposition? I founded a thing called New Radicalism and the Campaign for Liberal Democracy to actually challenge that and say we needed a radical liberal alternative